All right, we are live on Facebook. I am David Hicks. I am the Director of Operations for Central Alabama Crime Stoppers. Thank you for joining us for our live Facebook Live. We also use this audio for our podcast as well. Thank you for joining us. We have a very special episode of our Facebook Live. We like to bring families on from cold cases, talk to them about what they're going through. These victims' families are really going through difficult times after they find out about the crime that happened to their family, and they have to deal with it, and then they don't have answers. They go through this time period without any answers. So we provide this podcast to give families an outlet to talk and discuss what their family member meant to them, what they're doing to get through the difficult times, and what you can do to help them. And we at Crime Stoppers, we want to be a big part of that. We want to help the families. We do that every day. We put the lookouts for these suspects out there, put these stories out there for everyone to see. And if you have information, we want you to call. So today, this one really is a tough one. It's an older case from 2010. It's going to be the case of Bo Hudgens. He was 41 years old. He was the victim of a deadly shooting that happened in broad daylight. It was here in Montgomery, Alabama. It happened March 8th. That was a Thursday in 2010 at 1:32 in the afternoon. Montgomery police responded to 3300 block of McGee Road. It was going to be an apartment complex in reference to a subject shot. Upon arrival, police located the victim, Hudgens, who sustained life-threatening injuries, which were a gunshot wound. Hudgens was overcome by his injuries and later pronounced deceased on the scene. The investigation is now in the hands of the Montgomery DA's Cold Case Task Force. Investigators are requesting information from anyone that may have information to help solve this case. We at Crime Stoppers are offering a $5,000 reward. Wrap your mind around that, $5,000. If you have information, this may be something that you've heard of. You may have heard someone talk about it. If you have information and it leads to the arrest of the suspect, you will be rewarded $5,000. You will remain anonymous. No one will identify you. We can assure you of that. We will promise you that you will remain anonymous. That's what Crime Stoppers is all about. You can call us. You can talk to us. We are not going to ask you who you are. You say, well, how am I going to get that $5,000? I've got to identify myself to get that $5,000. We have a very private way of doing that. We will notify you, inform you of how to make that happen. We are all about you remaining anonymous if you have information. We understand that sometimes you have information and you don't want anyone else to know that you have that information. But we need that. The family needs that. So today, that's what this episode is all about, talking to the family. I have with us our Executive Director, Tony Garrett, and he will be interviewing the family. And Tony, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Hicks. Again, I'm Tony Garrett. I'm the Executive Director of Central Alabama Crime Stoppers. And we have family members here, Bo, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
I am Terry Butler, and I am Bo's sister.
I am Tracy Bavero, and I'm Bo's older sister.
Okay. We've interviewed people in the past, and I want to pretty much to interview you guys the same way that you've done countless interviews about this. And one of the things we want to put out to the public that the family is still fighting. The family is still looking for information, looking for answers themselves. And this is part of it. Being on television, being exposed, giving away information about your family just so you can make a connection to the public. So with that, let's start with, tell us about Bo. So he won't be just a number or a statistic or just a story on the news. Tell us about Bo.
Bo was our younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
He's 5 years younger than me. We're only 18 months apart.
Yeah.
So he was our baby brother. He was the funniest human being you'll ever. He was very, very funny. He was very kind, very genuine, very loving.
He was an athlete,
Yeah.
very
He was
athletic.
a very awesome athlete. But he was the baby. He
Yeah.
was the baby. But yeah, he was a pretty incredible person.
What school did he go to?
He went to Hooper Academy down in Hope Hull. We grew up in the country. And so he went to Hooper Academy and he played football at Hooper and basketball and ran track. So he went on to Troy State and he played football at Troy his freshman year at Troy, and they won a national championship actually
Wow.
the year that Bo was there. But yeah, and there's a really cool story.
There's a funny story with that too.
There is a pretty cool story about
Please
it.
go. We have no time restraints, so go ahead, please.
Probably, I'm trying to remember how many years ago. It was probably just a couple of years before Bo was killed. My dad got a call from Troy that said, "Hey," because my dad's name is Nollie. Like Bo's real name is Nollie Edge Hudgens Jr. When my dad said he was going to have a boy, he would never curse him with a name like Nollie Edge Hudgens Jr. Then he had a boy, and then he's a junior. So that's why we call him Bo. And so the Troy's new athletic director or whatever had somebody reach out to my dad and said, "Hey, we have a state ring here for you." And my dad's like, "Well, it's not me, it's my son." But anyway, so long story, he called my brother. He said, "Hey, they shipped it to my dad, my brother's national championship ring." And they had said they were not going to give freshmen the ring because they were freshmen that year. They didn't have enough money to buy them a ring. So when Bo left, he didn't realize that he had a ring there. So he called my brother and he's like, "Hey, Bo, I need you to come by the house. I've got something for you." And Bo's like, my dad's like, "It's just a surprise." And my brother's like, "Daddy's bought me a truck." "But you got me a truck." And like he and his wife Stacy were at the beach, and so he was all fired up. And anyway, so he shows up, and Dad had wrapped it in Bo's old football towel, and he hands it to Bo, and Bo just starts like bawling. He's bawling because he's like us. We're very emotional people.
Yeah.
And so he gets this ring, and anyway, so some local, I think WAKA picked it up or whatever, and they set it up and found the guy who found the ring, and he went through all the trouble to find Bo. And Bo, they met on Troy's football field that year, and he walked up and Bo got to meet him, and it was really special. And so, but that happened like probably a year before Bo died.
Wow, that I don't know if he still wanted the truck though.
Yeah, he would probably rather have had the truck, but yeah.
Well, tell me something. Bo was close to you guys, and I know it's hurt your family. A lot of families are going through the same thing. What type of resources did you use in order to get to this point? I know you're still not recovered yet, but to get to this point, what type of resources have
Just
you
having
used?
each other and having his widow, Stacy, was, a big part for me. Was staying, in contact with her, and we still do.
Yeah, we're still close to her.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you in the beginning, probably like most families, like you're really angry. You're angry, and so you could allow that anger to take over and take you places where you really probably don't want to go. But for me personally, I really didn't have a choice but to turn to God and really pray for him not to allow me to be angry, and to take what happened to Bo and somehow try to find some goodness in it. And I will tell you, at my brother's funeral, it was
Standing room only.
standing room only, and people were saved that day. There's no question that his death changed people's life that day, for sure. And so for people that are struggling, if you don't have faith in the Lord, like I definitely would, seek out the Lord. But if you don't, I mean, I went to counseling, just private counseling as well, to try to process it over the years, on and off over the years. But, we have our family, and Bo was loved by so many people that, like, just hearing stories about him that we didn't even know about, like, that's been really encouraging too. And like, we've had people reach out to us over the years and just tell us things about Bo and things that he did that, out of his kindness, or things that he did to make them laugh all the time. That just who he was makes it easy to, I mean, we have great memories of him, but, also there's just a loss. Like, we don't.
And I think one of the worst things for me is our mother dying, not knowing, what happened to her baby. That really
And his death,
hits hard.
when you talk about how it changes a family, like, that changed my mom. Like, when we talked to the doctors, because started noticing, like, for like months, like, she would call me up and she would say, "Hey, what happened to Bo?" Like, it's almost like she's put this block where she couldn't like comprehend that he had actually
How bad
like,
it was.
died. So I would literally have to retell the story and say, "This is what happened," and she's like, "He was shot." And I'm like, "Yes, he was shot." And then when we noticed that her memory was getting kind of bad and we thought she had dementia, they did say that a trauma like that can accelerate that. So she just, even though she had us and she loved us, my mom was an amazing mom. Like, I can't imagine as a mom losing a kid. And so,
And not having any kind of justice for
and
it.
not having any justice at all. So
Yes, I have 2 boys myself, and I can't imagine leaving before them.
No.
So
No way.
I know this got to be hard.
it is. And like my dad, like, he is angry with the police department.
He's just angry.
He just felt like, and I would probably, I mean, because he hasn't taken the time to go down there because he can't, obviously, and I get it, but because he's like, I don't understand how in broad daylight is when it happened. And there were probably 30 people outside of that apartment complex on the news that day. So you 30 people, if one of you knows something, because I know y'all were out there and I don't know who you are, like,
That's why it's so important to get the story back out into the public, because someone's holding on to information. Someone saw
no
something.
doubt they know. There's no way that guy walked up in broad daylight in the middle of the day and shot a gun. And
Left in a car.
And probably from that apartment complex. I mean, somebody knows something. There's no way that people don't know. There's just no way. There's no possible way. It's not like he was out in the woods by himself and somebody walked up on him and shot him and no one was around. Like, there were so many people. You can go back and look at the footage, and
there's quite a few people there.
People standing around. And that's why I was like, what? Like, why? Like, why would somebody not say something? Like, they know.
I know we're gonna continue doing this from time to time. We're gonna have you back, and we're just gonna ask for an update. Of course, we're gonna continue to ask for updates from the police, but a lot of people go through this also, where they get to a point where they have to blame somebody, and the police are right there.
Yeah.
They're the first ones you
Yeah.
blame. Why isn't this case solved? Is what you're looking for. You're looking at the district attorney. You're looking at the police. You're saying someone knows something. You know who did this. Why aren't you doing something?
Yeah.
I understand, but almost every case that we get, it's the same thing. They're saying, hey, why isn't this case solved? We see it on television where you solved that one. Why can't you
Right.
solve this one? So I understand that part, but I can never be in your shoes to understand what you're going through. And I never want anyone else to be in your
Yeah.
shoes. But since you are here, we hope that somebody is listening that's going through the same thing, that they're able to take what you're saying, what you're going through, and maybe they can be encouraged, and maybe they can see some insights that you've given to say, okay, I need to go to faith. I need to go to counseling.
Mhm.
I need to get help myself. Because if you go down, the rest of your family go down.
Yeah.
So that's one
That's
thing I
right.
applaud you guys about, as far as sticking together and being a family
Mhm.
and encouraging each other. If someone's out there and you know about this case, go ahead, give us a call, 215-STOP. $5,000 reward if it takes money. If it takes more than that, give us a call. Maybe we can negotiate. If you have information about this case, we're willing to listen. All you have to do is call. We have never had anyone to be identified since I've been over the program, since 1997, since the program has been in existence. So no one has been identified through Crime Stoppers. You don't have an excuse. Go ahead, give us a call, download the app, give us the information, and let's go ahead and see if we can close this case out. Hicks, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it back over to you. Thank you guys for coming out, and we'll be
Appreciate
talking.
it. Thank
Thank you
y'all.
later.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, family, for joining us today. It really means a lot to have you with us and to hear your story. It's these are tough. These are not easy, but we do these so you can see the other side. We hear about these victims, we hear about murders, and you don't always know the backstory. These are people. These are good people. And Bo was a hardworking, good guy. Sounds like just the kind of guy you would want to know, the kind of person you would want to have in your life. And that family has that void, not having Bo in their life. So if you know anything or know someone that said something, pass that on to us. 215-STOP. You can go online. You can go to our website, www.215stop.com. You can submit your tip that way. You can download the app through P3. Simply type in P3, download the app that way, and you can submit your tip. But any way that you do it, it's anonymous. It's a $5,000 reward. Again, if you know anything about this case, family, you are going to be in my prayers, and I'm going to pray that if someone has information or if there's something out there that is going to come out, that is definitely something I will do every day. And I ask that those out there that have faith as well, that you do that. Let's take a stand against crime, and let's have justice for Bo. Thank you for tuning in, and that ends this podcast. We'll see you next time.